though I don't normally talk about anime and manga on this channel, but I'll be honest, the book I read that I'd planned for this video I didn't like and I do not want to dedicate a whole video to. So I'm going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen 0 and comparing it to the movie and the manga. For context, I watched all of Jujutsu Kaisen on Thursday night, the animated TV show, so I watched all of that on Thursday night. Went and watched Jujutsu Kaisen 0 on Friday night, and today, Saturday, I read the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 manga one-shot. So I have a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen on my mind, and so I thought let's just get it out in a video on this channel and see who likes it. So, I'm going to compare the manga to the movie. The first thing is, it's almost like beat for beat the same. A lot of the panels they had bang on. Obviously there were some aspects of it that were stretched out, which is actually a very positive thing in my opinion, which I'll go into. But overall I think it's a very good adaptation. I obviously have just become a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen and I adored both the film and the manga. I adore the character of Yuta. I'm the kind of person that loves main characters in all sorts of media I consume. So Yuta's character was great in both the manga and the film. But let's just get into the slight differences I saw, which frankly I didn't mind. I quite liked the changes they made in the film compared to the one-shot manga, and to be honest, again, it is a one-volume manga. It's approximately like 200 pages long, which isn't very long, so getting that out into an almost 2-hour movie, pretty good. But let's jump right into it. So the first thing I noticed when reading the manga after the movie is that they rearranged a couple of the slides or the panels in the movie so that it flowed a little bit better. I'm seeing in particular the beginning where Yuta is being introduced to the others. Just at a few points, I'll put it like panels from the manga here, a very few points they have shifted things around there, which is fine because it just helps the flow of things when you're telling it from a cinematic perspective. I think things like manga and comics, it's far easier to understand when you're having a flashback and you don't really need to set it up. The manga, it kind of turns the background of the page a little bit darker. I did read it on the Shonen Jump app, so you know, maybe it might look a little bit different to an actual physical version, but on the digital version it just looked like the background of the panels was like black, so the outlines were black, which kind of indicated a flashback. So in the movie it was a little bit easier if they just rejigged things so they didn't have to flash back, and to be honest I quite like that. I think if you can avoid a flashback, unless it's going to be a very extensive one in all mediums, I think try and avoid it, both in books, comics and film. So that's the one thing which I didn't mind. The second thing I liked better in the manga actually is the translation. So obviously I read a lot of books that are translated, so you know, it's kind of something that I'm going to talk about a lot, despite me not actually knowing Japanese. You know, if I knew Japanese I would review the books in Japanese, or if I knew, like, could read Hindi, I would read all the books from Indian authors I have in Hindi, but I can't. But the translation in the book is a lot better. A lot of the words they use are more accurate. This is actually a different topic that we can discuss. It's the issue of subtitling in the land of animation, anime in particular. Again, not really the focus of my channel. My channel is primarily books, but to touch on it, subtitling is a very undervalued skill. Subtitlers, especially for companies like Crunchyroll, which I love using Crunchyroll. I have a Crunchyroll subscription, so I consume all of my anime. And I used to read manga on their manga app, but it's trash compared to Shonen Jump. But it is a thing where it's known that places like Crunchyroll underpay their subtitlers and translators. And also, because you're underpaying someone, and it's usually very few people working on it, maybe for the movie they had more people, perhaps, but the way they're going to translate might not fit perfectly. For example, there is one part in the book and the movie where they use a word in the movie which is like, it just felt like it just stuck out a little bit. Like the use of the word didn't fit the context under which was being said. I'm going to put the, trigger warning, I'm going to put the panel here, but it is a trigger warning for sexual assault. So here, as you can see, it uses the violated word. They use a different word in the movie, and I just feel like translation-wise, it didn't fit the context of this scene where Gato is meant to be a more, almost, he's a religious figure, and he wouldn't use the word they used in the movie. He would use a word like this. So that's kind of a thing where, if you're looking at translations, and this can apply to books, when you're reading a translated text, do keep in mind there will be certain things that might be lost in translation, like almost like tone and context. Mostly tone, I think, is lost, and it's something that I do come across when I'm reading a lot of translated books, where the tone or the themes might not hit exactly with me. And again, as someone who is reading books from across the world on this channel, that is a slight issue, but obviously it's not as big as an issue if you can't read that language. But do keep in mind when you're discussing and reading translated texts, there might be something missing, which is why when a book has translators or author's notes, it's very good to read those too, in case, you want to get in the mind frame of the author and, more importantly, the translator in that sense. Finally, it is talking about how they extended certain scenes and made slight changes. One of the best things, obviously, about anime and animation, especially when it comes to a shonen show, is the fight scenes. I love watching fight scenes. I've been a lover of martial arts and kung fu throughout my life. Kung fu, less kung fu. I don't actually have never seen like actual kung fu, but martial arts as a whole. And so when that's translated from page to screen, love it. Amazing. Obviously, with it being a one-shot, the fight scenes are very short in the manga. Although, actually, some of the fights are. Obviously, the key ones, so I'm not going to ruin it, actually, in case you're an anime-only watcher. But the key parts, they kept long, but there's a couple of fight scenes they added which are really great, and how they expanded on them. They also made some changes to some of the characters. For example, Panda, in the film, he uses one of his cores differently to in the manga. He doesn't change into one of his other cores. I wish I could use a screenshot from the movie, but I'm not going to. So I'll show you a screenshot of the panel. So he is Panda here, but he uses one of his cores in the film, whereas he doesn't do that in the manga. So also the manga does obviously stretch out certain scenes, and also adds a couple of points with, again, more flashbacks and more context given to parts of the story, which again, obviously you can't really do in a manga, especially as it's a one-shot and they already hit the 200-page limit. But in the movie, they could, and it was nice, and it expanded a little bit on some of the characters that you see in the movie, which you have also seen in the anime, and it kind of is serving the anime as like these are the teachers and the students and the characters we've kind of shown you a little bit in the anime, and now this is what they can do and what you can look forward to in season 2. That's great. That's obviously, I actually don't know when Jujutsu Kaisen 0 was published as a book, or the volume 1. I will put a date here and then I'll check. Maybe I will voice over, but I probably won't. But yeah, obviously that's probably affected that. And also, actually, one last thing to add, I love at the very beginning of the volume is there's a one page where it's got Yuta and Megami on top, and then underneath it's got Imanaki and Yuji at the bottom, and in the middle it says, these are not the same characters, and it's kind of labelled them because everyone has very similar haircuts to each other. I quite like that. But that is the comparison from the manga to the movie. The movie did a lot of things to add quality of life to the manga, but obviously that is with the idea that the manga is a one-shot and this is a nearly 2-hour film. So that makes sense. And also the other note of the manga is actually translated a lot better, in my opinion. It feels more natural and flows better from a translation standpoint compared to the subtitles of the movie, because they probably put a lot more time into translating the manga. So if translations are important to you, that's that, and to be honest, translation should be important to you. And if there are translators' notes in books, I will reiterate, read the translator's notes. It does help you understand the context of your story and the translation of the story. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share the video with a friend or family member. If you are new here or you're a returning subscriber, let me know in the comments down below. Regardless, if you want more comparisons between books and their movies or adaptations, I would love to know, because that actually might be something I'm very interested in talking about. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. And hey, I hope you read a great book or manga today. I'm reading Claymore at the moment.